Okay, I think we're live now. Sometimes it takes a little long to connect. I'm sorry, I know I'm a few minutes late, but welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. It's lovely to have you here. All right, I'm just making sure everything is working as planned. All right. I think everything is connected. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm just checking everything quickly. Yes, okay, everything's working. Welcome, good morning. My name is Tanita. I am a ESL coach. So what I do is I teach people English. I've been doing this for about 6 years now. And I also teach people how to learn effectively. So if your goal in English or any language is to really learn effectively, reach fluency, and master the language, that's what I do. That's what I help students with. So I plan a lot of my lessons around doing the right kinds of activities and practice and study so that you can actually learn this language. Because learning any language is tough. I know that. I have learned some languages before, and I know that it is quite hard. Okay, so today, let's get into our topic for today. We are going to talk about some street foods from around the world. So if you love food and specifically street food, this is what we're going to be covering today. All right, so I've picked 10 foods from around the world. Some of them you might know. I did try to find some that were a little unusual and maybe not so well known. So hopefully I got some that are a little new and interesting for you. Remember that there is an activity that you can complete at the end of this live. If you complete the practice activity, you will stand a chance to win a one-on-one 50-minute session with me. All right, and you can use this 50-minute session to create a study plan, to sort of find out what your challenges are in English and how we can overcome them. I can give you some activities or guidelines on sort of how you can continue to learn English. So be sure to do the activity, to do the exercise if you want to win this 50-minute session. All right. I really do this because it's one thing to watch a video and learn some vocabulary and learn about things in English, but it's really important that we also put it into practice, that we turn it from passive learning into active learning. And that's why I normally have this little activity and I give you a prize, or you can win a prize to sort of just, you know, as we might say, to sweeten the deal, which means just to make it a little sweeter, a little nicer, give you something nice in return for your hard work and effort. All right, so let's begin. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to start looking at the 10 sort of street foods from around the world. Now, just remember my pronunciation of these words is how we would say it in English. I might not be saying it the way that you would like, the way that locals would say these words, so please do forgive me. I do not know all the languages in the world, and I'm pretty sure some of these pronunciations I am going to get wrong. So I'm going to say them the way we might say it in English. Okay, so that's just something to be mindful of. So let's begin. I'm going to quickly share my screen and then we can start with our foods around the world. Okay, we just need to give it a moment. This takes a little bit of time just to share the screen because I am using Zoom at the moment. If you've ever used it, it can sometimes take a bit of time. All right, so you should be able to see I'm just going to put my video in the corner. All right, so street food around the world. We're looking at 10 famous foods. All right, I just want to make sure that everything is broadcasting to YouTube. I just want to make sure everything is working the way that it should. So let me just double check this. I see what I've done. I need to quickly stop sharing and I need to separate it. Sorry about this, always technical issues. This is something I'm still fairly new to, so please be patient with me. All right, so let's try that again. This is only my second time doing a live through Zoom, so this is quite new for me. All right, so you can see everything's working. Let's get into it. All right, so street food around the world. So the first one that we are going to start with is Arancini. Okay, so this is an Italian word, of course. So this comes from southern Italy. It's basically a little rice ball that is stuffed with maybe some different fillings. It's coated with some breadcrumbs, deep fried, and they are quite popular, especially in Sicily. All right, so they come from southern Italy. It's a food from Sicily, from the locals there. As you can see from the picture, there could be some spices. Maybe you would include some different ingredients. You could possibly, I don't know, I've never had it, but I'm sure you could put a little bit of cheese or some other kinds of things in these rice bowls. So let's look at some of the vocabulary that we've got here. So it says rice balls that are stuffed. So anytime that we take food and we say that we stuff it or it's stuffed, what that means is we take another ingredient and we put it inside whatever this main food is. So in other words, we have a rice ball and inside we've got some other ingredients. When we say coated with breadcrumbs, so breadcrumbs is literally breadcrumbs, the crumbs that come from bread, right? What we do is then we normally would add it with egg and a little bit of milk so it becomes kind of thick and sticky. And then with the rice ball, you would sort of just roll it in this liquid so it will coat it. So when we coat something, it means to put a thin layer of a liquid or something over something else. All right, so I could coat my body, for example, in cream. So if I put a thin layer of cream, all right, or body lotion is another word that we used to call that, all over my skin, I'm coating myself pretty much. You know, that sounds weird. All right. And then we deep fry. So deep fry is when we take a very sort of deep pot of oil. So we have to have quite a lot of oil. All right. So frying and deep frying are different. When we fry, we usually use a pan and it's just a thin little bit of oil. And then we, like when you make an egg, for example. Whereas deep frying is you have a lot of oil so that the item can go all the way in and be covered all the way around in the oil. You're not doing one side and then another side. So that's what we mean by deep fried. And staple, when we talk about food and we use the word a staple, we mean that it is a basic, very common and normal kind of food. So other examples of staples when it comes to food in most houses, obviously depending on where you live, could be things like bread, milk, eggs, sugar, flour, all right, rice, for example. These kinds of items are all considered staples. They're the things that we eat regularly and need in order to have food, to be healthy, to get some kind of sustenance or nutrition. All right, so that's what we mean by a staple. Cuisine is really just another word for food or types of meals. It's a type of food or meal. All right, so that's arancini. Let's go to number 2. We have the arepa. Now, I will say this looks quite delicious. I don't eat meat, so I think for me, like a one with beans looks delicious to me, but this sounds really nice. I'd love to try this. So it comes from Colombia and Venezuela. So it's a soft, thick patty that are made with a ground maize kernels or maize flour or maize meal. I will tell you what that is shortly. It's then mixed with water and salt. You can add butter, eggs, milk, or oil if you'd like into this recipe. I think there probably are different kinds of ways of making this food. It can be baked, boiled, fried, grilled, or steamed, and they can be stuffed, right? There's that word again, or topped with meat, cheese, eggs, tomatoes, or salad. So in this picture, we can see that they have been stuffed. So remember I said it means that something goes inside something else. So here you can see they've been stuffed with different ingredients, other ingredients. It looks like some maybe pulled pork. We've got some chicken, and this looks like maybe some beans and something else here. Okay, so a soft, thick patty. All right, so a patty, if you think of burgers, hamburgers, right? The piece of meat is normally round and like about a centimeter or so thick. Any food that has the shape and thickness or something like that, we would call a patty. All right, so that's the word that we use for this, patty, P-A-T-T-Y for the singular. Now, maize is another word for corn. So ground maize kernels, maize flour, or maize meal is all types of corn. So a corn flour, the ground maize kernels will probably be a little rougher, not as smooth as a flour, or maize meal. Okay. Let's see what other words here. So baked, boiled, fried, grilled, or steamed. So there's lots of ways to make this food. So baked, this means it goes in the oven. All right, when we normally put something that's made with flour, like cakes or breads and things like that in the oven, we say that we bake them. However, if we put vegetables or meat in the oven, we roast them. So bake if it's something like breads or cakes or cookies, and roast if it's meat and vegetables in the oven. So they're going in the same place and being cooked the same way. We have 2 different words. All right, so we've got bake and roast. All right. Boiled, that really means to heat up water, like when you make your tea or coffee in the morning, you boil the water. All right, so if we boil a food, it means that we put it into hot water and we wait for it to cook that way. Fried, as mentioned, thin layer of oil in a pan, and then you do one side and then the other side, like frying an egg. Grilled is a little different. It means that normally you will have a metal sort of grid. So think of like a metal item that has lines on it, so it's not solid. All right, you might put it on here and have a flame at the bottom if you're lucky enough. Or in some ovens, there's a grill option where there's a grid at the top of the oven, which gives the heat an element. And that will give a lot of heat very quickly. And that will give sort of this grilled effect. So you're essentially cooking it by applying very hot heat for a small amount of time. All right, and it's normally from one side, from the bottom or the top, depending if you do it on a barbecue or if you do it in an oven. And then steamed, which means to boil water, and instead of putting the item in the water, you might put it on top of something else and you let the steam cook it rather than dropping it in the boiling water. All right, so then it could be stuffed or topped. So topped means pretty much to put things on top, like a pizza. If you have a pizza, we top it with all those ingredients. We put on cheese and tomatoes and mushroom and pineapple, all right, or ham and chicken. That means we top it, means we put it on the one side, the top side of the item. All right, and that's the arepa. I would, like I said, really love to try this. I'm very keen to actually try and make it. I think I'd love it plain. All right, so that's also another way that this can be eaten. I did see that it could also be eaten plain, which means with no toppings. You just eat the patty. You don't add any cheese or tomatoes or meat or anything. You just eat it after you cook it. Now, I think I'd like it plain. All right, this one sounds good. Let's go to our next one. The banana Q. Okay, from the Philippines. So to me, this is a bit of a sweeter type of food. It's more like a dessert or a treat that you might have. So made with Saba bananas. It's a specific type of banana. I don't think I've ever had this banana before, so I'm not too sure on what it tastes like. But it's a common variety in the Philippines that might get used there. It probably grows well in that climate and is easy to grow. They are then deep fried and coated in caramelized brown sugar before being skewered on bamboo sticks. Okay, so some of the vocabulary is starting to get familiar. We're starting to see some of the same words like deep fried and coated. All right, so we've got coated again here. So if you can see in the picture, right, you can see these are called skewers. Okay, this little long stick. It's like a very big toothpick. All right, the little one that you usually use after you've had meat and things like that to get food out of your teeth. We have these sort of bamboo sticks or skewers, as we call them. And when you put food items like this, when you essentially put a stick or a skewer through food, all right, we skewer. We say that we skewer it. So skewer can be a noun and a verb here. So if you've ever eaten something like a kebab, which I believe is a very common Turkish and sort of, where else does it come from? I'm not sure. Maybe you can let me know. But I know in Turkey, kebabs are quite popular, which is the meat on a stick. It's the same thing. They're being skewered onto the skewer. I know, English is confusing. All right, so you can see we've got these bananas and they have been coated in caramelized brown sugar. So what is caramelized brown sugar? If you take sugar and you put it in a pot or a pan for a little bit and you cook it, it starts to go very sticky and brown. That is what we mean by caramelized. Okay, that's also how we make caramel. All right, also pronounced caramel. I think in America they say caramel rather than caramel. In South Africa, we say caramelized or caramel. So you cook the sugar for a little bit, it becomes like really sticky, like a sticky liquid. And then you can roll your bananas in that and then skewer them onto the bamboo sticks. And that is your snack, your banana Q. This does look delicious. I don't know if I would try it though. I'm very unadventurous when it comes to bananas. I like to just eat bananas the way that they are. And I'm very, very picky about how ripe my bananas must be. If they're green, I won't eat them. I actually like to wait until they're quite ripe, which means when we say ripe, we mean that the fruit has been off of the tree for a while. And it's sort of, that's when it becomes softer or juicier or has a little more flavor. All right, so I normally like to wait till my bananas are nice and ripe before I eat them. But this does look good. I like the caramelized brown sugar, so this could be a nice little sweet treat or snack from the Philippines. All right, so we're starting to see some of the same vocabulary. Next, we have the beguni. Beguni. All right. Probably not saying that right. So this is from Bangladesh and West Bengal in India. I probably would not want to eat this, and I'll tell you why soon. It's sliced eggplant that is battered and then deep fried or battered and then fried or deep fried in oil Beguni is a Bengali snack found in Bangladesh as well as the Indian province of West Bengal. Now, eggplant, I don't like it. It's not my favorite. I really dislike it. Another word for eggplant that you might hear is aubergine. All right, aubergine is another word for this vegetable. It's kind of like a big purple pear or cucumber in a way, but it's much bigger. It can be purple. I think there are some that are white and purple. There's different variations of this vegetable. I don't like it. So let's look at the word battered. Okay. Now, battered is very similar to when we coat something. So if we batter something, we normally will use a bread crumb or some kind of crumb and flour, and then we will coat it. All right, we'll coat the aubergine or the eggplant in this batter. Now, batters are normally made of flour and water and maybe a little bit of salt. All right, a little bit different to coating in breadcrumbs. All right, so you make a batter with flour, egg, water, salt, I think something like that. There's different recipes. You will then coat your food item, and then here you can see you can fry it. So a little bit of oil in a pan or deep fry it, a pot of oil that's really hot. So the whole thing goes in, cooks really quickly, and then you take it out. All right, it does look nice. I just know I don't like eggplants. I wouldn't want to try this. But I can imagine that it's not too unhealthy. Of course, it's fried. Fried food can always be a little unhealthy, but it is also a vegetable. So I think that could be an interesting snack. Some street food from India. And Indian food, if you didn't know, is my absolute favorite. I love Indian food. All right, let me know in the comments what your favorite food is. I'd love to know. All right, I just want to see if there are any comments or questions. If you do have any questions or comments, let me know. Don't be afraid to tell me. All right, okay, so there's Beguni. Let's go to our next one. Bunny Chow from South Africa, my country. All right. So this originated in the Indian community in the city of Durban. This is where I grew up. Durban is my hometown, so I'm very familiar with this kind of food and this community. A bread loaf is hollowed out and then filled with a curry. It's usually mutton, lamb, chicken, or a bean. All right, bean curries are quite popular as well because a lot of the Indian community could be vegetarian. And it's normally eaten with your hands. All right, I don't eat it. Do I eat it with my hands? Yeah, I do. I actually do eat it with my hands. It's probably one of the only things besides hamburgers and pizza that I eat with my hands. And normally there'll be a side of salad, which is grated carrots, onion, and chili, which we call samballs. All right, so we'll say curry and samballs is what we call this little side salad that it comes with. So when we say that a bread loaf is hollowed out, so if we hollow something out, if you have something solid, right, it's full, okay, like a loaf of bread, right? You've got bread in the middle and then you've got the crust on the outside. If you want to hollow it, it means you take what is in the middle out. So it's kind of the opposite of stuffing. So if we stuff, it means we take something and we put it inside. If we hollow, it means we take what is inside out. So as you can see in the picture, this piece here is the soft bread that's come out of the middle of this loaf. We don't use a whole loaf of bread for this dish. We normally do a half or a quarter, depending on what you order. So you'll cut your bread, you'll hollow it out, you'll take the soft part out, put it on the side, then you fill it with your curry of choice, and that's basically how you eat it. So you'll normally take the part that you've taken out the middle or hollowed, and you'll dip it in and eat it as you eat this food. All right, so this is really nice. It's basically curry in bread. It's delicious. I do love my bunny chow, but I think I prefer biryani more. I definitely prefer rice dishes a little bit more, but I still like bunny chow. All right, so very traditional South African food, especially from Durban, but you can find it anywhere in the country. So quite nice and easy to make from home as well. All right, so there we go. Just checking any other vocabulary. No, I think everything else is fine here. All right, let's go to our next one, which is a crepe. All right, I know I'm saying that wrong. I'm not saying it in the French way, but we would say a crepe, for example. It's from France. Now, I know it looks like a pancake, but it is different. It's a very thin pancake-like pastry throughout France and Canada and Belgium as well. And it's made with different kinds of fillings, and there are two types of crepes. We get a sweet and a savory. All right, so we got some new vocabulary here. Now, I don't know exactly what makes this different to a pancake, but I think it's the way that it's made, the batter. So remember, if you mix flour with water, milk, or eggs, you are making what is called a batter. So when you make a cake, you make a cake batter before you bake it. It's the same with pancakes, flapjacks, and crepes. We have to make a batter first before we can cook it. And I think crepes is a little bit different to a pancake batter, and it's normally much thinner than a pancake. Pancakes are a few millimeters thicker than a crepe, and it really does make a difference. Okay, because a crepe will become a little more crispy, whereas a pancake could still have a little bit of softness in it, still be a little bit softer, where crepes are a little bit more crispy. Okay, as you can see in the picture, you can see it's a bit more brown, which means it's got a little bit of crunch to it. So when we say fillings, okay, so fillings again is just think of being stuffed, but instead of putting it just in the middle, a filling is just what we call the thing that we stuff into something else or put into something else. So here, I think we can see some mushrooms, maybe some kind of cheese and some herbs. All right, that is the filling for the crepe. And you can have different kinds of fillings, like it says sweet and savory. Sweet fillings, that's quite obvious. This could be things like strawberries and cream, some kind of jam. All right, anything like blueberries or banana and chocolate and sugar and cinnamon. These would be sweet fillings. And then we get savory fillings, which is more like the mushroom. So these kinds of foods have a lot more spices, a little bit more salty. It could be mushroom and cheese. It could be cheese and tomato with ham. That would be a savory kind of filling. All right, so sweet, you're normally talking about your desserts, more like a dessert, whereas savory, think more like a breakfast, egg, bacon, all right, tomato, eggs, mushroom, those kinds of things would be more savory. Okay, pastry, another word that we could look at here. Pastries are any kinds of foods like croissants, or there's so many more. There's chocolate eclairs, there's, I'm trying to think what other kinds of pastries. My mind is blank right now. Pastries are normally anything that is like it's a flour or very thin. It's not a flour. It's like a thin kind of, I don't know how to describe it. But basically it's kind of this special sheet, or it's like paper. It's like a paper, a little bit thicker, and you can shape it in different ways. You put it in the oven and bake it, and then it kind of creates this very crispy but soft in the middle kind of food. So things like croissants or a crepe, for example, where you're crispy, not always soft in the middle because the crepe is a little bit thinner. But if anybody knows how to make these and can tell me differently, go for it. All right, next we have the gyro. Okay, from Greece. Okay, so it's a Greek meat preparation in which the meat, traditionally lamb, chicken, and pork, is cooked on a vertical rotisserie and then sliced off to be served in a wrap or flatbread, usually pita, and filled with tomatoes, onions, and tzatziki sauce. Tzatziki sauce. I think I said that right. So lots of new vocabulary. Okay, a vertical rotisserie. Maybe you've seen in the movies or the cartoons when they cook a chicken, it's like on this metal stick. All right, the chicken's been skewered, if you remember from the banana cue, and it sort of turns, it's over a flat fire. Maybe you've seen this in cartoons or movies, and it's normally turning. This is what we call a rotisserie. So when we say vertical, this is horizontal, vertical's this way. If you've ever had anything like a shawarma, you would have seen this as well. So imagine a rotisserie that's vertical with a big piece of meat on it, or I think it's layers of meat that then gets cooked, and then they will just slice pieces off of it, which then gets used in the gyro, all right, which is how they make the meat, okay? So this particular food is the way, what's special about it is the way that the meat is made. All right, it will come in a wrap or a flatbread like a pita. So here we can see a pita, all right, because pitas are normally a bit thicker, whereas wraps are a lot thinner normally. And then again, you can see we have a filling, all right, so we can fill it with different kinds of ingredients. So here I think we can see some feta cheese, all right, tomato, a little bit of herbs, and definitely some tzatziki sauce. Now, if I remember, tzatziki is kind of like a yogurt dressing, yogurt and herb dressing. So they take Greek yogurt or plain yogurt, I'm not sure, and they add some like spices or herbs specifically, and it makes like this kind of sauce in a way that you can then put on the food. I don't like tzatziki. They do love hummus, which is another very Greek or Mediterranean type of food, which comes from chickpeas. All right, so here we can see really nice food. This I would definitely eat, obviously without the meat though. So I wouldn't really be eating a gyro, would I? Because it's the meat that makes it quite special as a street food. But yeah, the pizza and the wrap, and give me some fillings, I'll be in heaven. All right, next we have a hot dog. Woohoo! A good old hot dog from America. If that's surprising to you, it was surprising to me as well. I did not think hot dogs came or originated in America. So this was really interesting for me to learn. So it's basically a grilled or cooked sausage served on a steamed hot bun, garnished with whatever the eater pleases. So this could be ketchup, could be mustard, onions, coleslaw, cheese, gherkins, whatever, okay? And you know, those are just some of the most common condiments. So let's look at these words. All right, this picture looks so good. They do look delicious. I have vegetarian hot dogs that I do get here in South Africa. So I love to put on onion, I love tomato sauce, and sometimes even some cheese. Love it. Okay, so we've got a grilled or cooked sausage. So grilled, again, if you remember, if you have a barbecue with a flame or a gas, you can grill it on that grid. It normally will give those lines and it just has a different flavor. You can also fry it. All right, I think frying could be quite popular. You could even boil this kind of sausage. That's normally how we make it here in South Africa. We take this sausage and we boil it. All right, it's served on a steamed hot dog bun. So as you can see here, we've got our hot dog buns. In South Africa, we call them hot dog rolls. We call them rolls. All right, so burger rolls and hot dog rolls. So burger rolls are the round ones, and then hot dog ones are the long ones. That's what we call them. We call them rolls here, but bun is another word. Garnished. Okay, so garnished is just a fancy word for topped, all right? To put all these ingredients and then to maybe make it look pretty, all right, with some herbs, you know, like here you can see there's some herbs on the top here. It's done in a very beautiful way. So garnished is what we use to say to top something, but to do it like in a really beautiful, pleasing, visually pleasing way. All right, and then we've got all the different sauces and things that we could use. Ketchup, we call it tomato sauce here in South Africa. So ketchup is the red one, all right, made from tomatoes normally. Mustard is the yellow one. You can see in the pictures here, very common. Comes from a mustard seed, I think, or flavored with a mustard seed. I'm not sure. I don't like mustard. Relish. Relish is really just a mix of, normally it's a mix of tomato and onions, so cooked, sort of fried tomatoes and onions with some spices and herbs. We normally will call a relish, and there are many different ways to make a relish. I love to make relish for breakfast sometimes. I love to just fry some onion with tomato with garlic, salt, pepper, and mixed herbs, mixed Italian herbs. That's, for me, is a nice relish, but you can get hot relish, you can get different kinds of relish. Onions, all right, fried onions. Coleslaw is basically cabbage and mayonnaise. It could be cabbage, carrot, and mayonnaise. So shredded, meaning cut into like thin strips, of cabbage and a carrot, and then mixed with mayonnaise. That is what a coleslaw is. Cheese and then some chili. All right. Condiments is another word for sauces. So when we talk about ketchup, mustard, relish, hot sauce, those kinds of things are called condiments. All right. This is another word that we use for the group of sauces, and it's all sauces. There's not specific sauces. All right, it's just another word for sauces, basically. All right, so that's hot dogs. They do look delicious. I'm not a big fan of gherkins, or pickles is the other word. All right, so pickles or gherkins, as you can see here, don't really like them, but very popular ingredient or topping for this food. And here I think we can see some jalapenos and some peppers. I think we can see some different ingredients here cooked as well. All right, it does look delicious, I will say that. Okay, now we have simit. I included this one because I really, really enjoyed this food when I was in Turkey. I love bread. If you haven't noticed, bread and rice and potatoes are my favorite. So this comes from Turkey. It's a circular bread, all right, and it's typically encrusted with sesame seeds, or less commonly poppy, flax, or sunflower seeds. It's traditionally eaten as a snack. It could be part of breakfast, but you can see it any time of the day. I remember seeing it more around the mornings. Okay, you could find it in the afternoon. I wasn't in Turkey too long to notice, but I do remember it very, very popular in the mornings in Turkey. I only had ones with sesame seeds, so I never came across the poppy, flax, or sunflower seeds. I remember sesame seeds. So basically, it looks like kind of like a pretzel, but it's different because it's more of a bread, whereas a pretzel's kind of like a bread and a biscuit put together. All right, so this was, I really, really loved it. So let's look at some of the words. Circular. All right, circular just means like a circle shape. All right, we use it as an adjective. If we say that something is circular, we're describing its shape. Okay. Encrusted. All right, so encrusted could be like another word, or it could be similar to coating. However, it's different in the way it's done. If we coat something, we normally have a liquid and then we dip the item in the liquid and then we cook it. That's to coat the item and cook it. Whereas if we encrust, we normally, if we're talking about seeds, all right, so if you buy bread and it has seeds on the top, that is encrusted. So what happens is, before you bake this bread, you will throw or sprinkle your seeds on it. So you're not using a liquid, you're just sort of throwing it on there. And when it bakes, it will stick a little. So as it cooks, as the dough cooks in the oven or bakes in the oven, the seeds will kind of stick or sort of settle into it a little bit more. So it's different in how we coat these items. One is with the liquid, one is just thrown on, and as it cooks, it kind of becomes one with the bread. All right. And then we've got different types of seeds, sesame, poppy, flax, or sunflower seeds. These are, or just different types of seeds. And then we've obviously got a snack any time of the day, and it could be breakfast as well. All right, so that is Simit. I love this. Oh, it was so good. I love bread. All right. And our last one is poutine from Canada and Quebec. Okay, I don't think I would enjoy this. I don't like gravy, but let's have a look at it. So originating in predominantly French-speaking province of Quebec, poutine is a classic Canadian street food of French fries topped with cheese curds and brown gravy. So here we can see French fries, we've got our cheese curds and our brown gravy. Okay, I don't know how the brown gravy is made, but to me, I think it would probably be a bit salty because brown gravies normally are. They have a very sort of meaty or salty kind of flavor. And yeah, I mean, French fries, give me French fries any day. I just think for me, the curds and the gravy doesn't sound so good, but I've never tried it. And I believe it's really, really popular, poutine. Curds, let's have a look here. What is a cheese curd? So curds are made basically if you take milk, or you know when milk goes sour and it goes off, right? It starts to form a kind of solid. So it becomes from a liquid, it becomes like lumpy solids. That is basically what curds are, okay? All cheeses start from curds. So if you're eating cheese, it's essentially sour milk. Of course, there are different processes and different ways that it's then aged and flavored, which gives us all these different kinds of cheeses that we get. But that's basically what a curd is. It's when that milk, you know, it's been sitting in your fridge for too long and then you pour it out and it's like lumpy. That's the start of curds. If you left it a little longer, you'll eventually get these solid pieces. They will normally then squeeze out all the liquid and you get left with this kind of solid mass of curd, which we call curds, cheese curds. All right, so we've got French fries, also known as chips. If you go to the UK and you say French fries, they'll know what you mean, but we normally call them chips. In South Africa, we also call them chips. All right, we don't say French fries or fries at all. And then a brown gravy. So gravy's like a sauce, but gravies are normally thicker. Like I say, they normally are made from meat oils. So if you roast something in the oven, you might take that oil and then add a little bit of powder or something, and that will make a gravy. You add a little bit of flour to thicken it up, and that makes a traditional gravy. So I'm not sure how this is made for a poutine, but that's basically what a gravy is. Okay. All right. So there we go. Those are all our street foods. Yes, it is. So let's get into our exercise for today. I think I've taken up enough time of yours on your Sunday, and I hope you enjoyed learning about all these wonderful foods. So we have an exercise for you today. So tell me if you have ever tried any of the street foods mentioned today. If yes, did you like it? Why or why not? Okay. Basically, that's my second question. If not, which one would you like to try and why? So if you haven't had any of these foods, which one would you like to try? Okay, so a really nice writing activity. You need to tell me about the flavors. What was it about it that you didn't like? The tastes? Was it the texture? So texture is like crunchy, soft. The way that we describe the feeling of food is what we mean by texture. Okay. So you really have to think about your adjectives for this activity. It's a really nice way to kind of think about flavors and the way the food feels and sort of just what it's made of and your preferences. So really nice to kind of expand on your adjectives, this activity. How to win? You complete the whole exercise, okay? So you have to tell me if you've tried any of them, if you liked it, and if you haven't tried any of them, which ones you would like to try and why. So you've got to answer one of these. So if you've tried one, that's your exercise. If you haven't tried one, you've got the second question to answer. Share it in the comment section of this video. It must be submitted by no later than next week, Sunday at 8:30 in the morning. For me, 8:30 in the morning, now it is 9:20, so it's been almost an hour. So by next week, needs to be submitted. Everybody who submits will go into a random draw and one person will win a free 50-minute one-on-one session with me. Okay, so we can use it for planning, studies, whatever. You can use that time however you want. All right, that's the exercise. Just to mention, I do have a newsletter. All right, it's called English Your Way Mail. I will include it in the description. So if you want to get regular news, know when I'm launching any workshops or just giving you some practice activities. So in my newsletter, I like to share interesting articles, which are great for practice. I like to share prompts and actual practice activities. And I also share things that are happening. When I have a workshop, when I have a course, everything gets shared in this newsletter. So if you want to join the community, be sure to click on the link and sign up. I also have a little freebie if you'd like it. I love using habits and helping people use habits to master English, to really reach fluency, because any skill requires some form of consistency. And the only way we truly reach consistency without relying only on motivation is through habits. So I love to talk about habits and how to help students and learners find habits that work for them and their lifestyle, ones that are sustainable, ones that can be done for the rest of their lives or for a long period of time. So this little freebie will give you some ideas on how to build those habits. There are also some, interesting information about actually studying English. And there's also a resources page. So if you want some free resources, I only recommend free resources at this stage. If you want some resources for checking pronunciation or checking your writing, this little freebie has got a resources page as well for English learners. So you might want to grab that if you want to learn a little bit more about habits and habit building to learn English. And last thing, if you didn't know, I do have some vocabulary templates. All right, so if you love learning vocabulary and at this stage in your life, you feel like this is what you really need to work on in your English, or you would like to have more vocabulary, remember it's not just vocabulary, it could be phrasal verbs, idioms, certain phrases or expressions. These templates can be used for all of them, not just individual words. There are 9 templates. There are digital and printable copies. So you can print it and complete it if you like, or you can do it all on the computer. All right. So if you're a bit worried about the environment like me, I created a digital version so that you don't have to print it out and you can access it anywhere. There are fun activities and games. So some of them are games like Pictionary or Roll the Dice or Tell a Story. So the key to really remembering vocabulary or phrasal verbs or idioms and expressions is to make it more memorable. So when I created these templates, I really wanted to make it fun and memorable and also make sure that you were using them in the right way. Okay. It's one thing to see a new word and try and repeat it 10 times and hope that you'll learn it. But you only truly remember when you have context. So these little activities and templates are all about creating that context, but also making it fun. All right, there are different games, there are word scramble templates. It can be quite fun. Mind maps. There are 9 different templates here. They're also really colorful and visual because that's been shown to improve memory and retention. There's some science that says that we are 60% more likely to remember something if it's visual for us. So I've used some different colors. I've also included picture elements into the vocabulary templates. If you want to find out more about those, you can buy all 9 altogether, or you can buy individual ones. All right, so I have separated them. If you only want one template, you can also buy that as well. There will be a link in the description. And that's basically it for today. It was lovely to have you here. I hope you enjoyed learning about these different street foods. I can't wait to see your comments. I'd love to see which ones you'd like to try. Like I say, for me, the arepa, that definitely looks like a delicious food for me. I love breads and things like that. So that looks interesting for me. All right, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the live. I don't want to take up any more of your time. Anything you need will be in the description. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you again soon. All right, you have a good time. I'm going to stop sharing as well. And yeah, enjoy, and I'll see you again soon. I'll see you next time. Bye.